Back to Black hasn't even opened yet, but it's already generating a controversy. Actually, make that a few controversies.
Stay lucky, Amy.
This Amy Winehouse biopic comes out at the end of May, but the trailer alone was enough to split fans right down the middle. Some can't wait to see Amy's story come to life. Others are not so psyched. I thought I'd take a look at what is driving the buzz and the vitriol. Let's dive into what makes Back to Black the most talked about movie of 2024. Okay, first let's get into the basics of the movie. Back to Black takes us through the roller coaster life of Amy Winehouse, the singer with a voice that touched hearts around the world. It'll dive into more than just her music though. The movie will apparently give us a peek into Amy's struggles, her moments of joy, and the challenges that came with her fame. It's directed by Sam Taylor Johnson, who's known for her work directing 50 Shades of Grey and the John Lennon-focused movie Nowhere Boy. Back to Black stars Marissa Abela as Amy Winehouse, and she's joined by Jack O'Connell, Eddie Marsan, and Leslie Manville as the primary cast. It chronicles Winehouse's life from her North London roots to global fame, and it seems to have a focus on her vibrant years in London and the creation of her iconic album Back to Black. Abela talked in an interview about how much she was able to prepare for the role.
And yeah, I had sort of 4 months to really get into preparation mode. It was hardcore, but it was great.
Not surprisingly, the soundtrack features many of Winehouse's songs. The film is set for release in the UK on April 12, 2024, with its US release scheduled for May 17th. When the trailer for Back to Black first hit the internet, the reaction was immediate and intense. Fans of Winehouse flocked to social media to share their thoughts, and the opinions were all over the place. Of course, a lot of fans are psyched to see Amy's story on the big screen, but not everyone is on board. A significant number of fans expressed their concerns about how the movie would handle the more sensitive parts of Amy's life. There are certainly some unpleasant aspects of her life, like her battles with addiction and the intense media scrutiny she faced that might play pretty rough on screen. For these fans, the trailer seemed to hint that the movie might focus too much on the drama and not enough on the music or the brighter moments of Amy's life. The split in the fan base is clear. On one side, there's hope that Back to Black will be a loving tribute to a much-missed artist. On the other, there's the fear that the film might just feel like it's exploitation. Then there are those who simply feel like Marissa Abela doesn't remind them enough of Amy. Interestingly enough though, Amy's real dad, Mitch Winehouse, gave the casting choice his blessing. He told TMZ that, quote, "Marissa's a great choice for the role, even if she doesn't look exactly like Amy." He also pointed out that Eddie Marsan doesn't really look like him either, so he's not too bothered about that aspect. And as far as Marissa's reaction to people saying she's not worthy of playing Amy, I can only assume she'll lean on this particular lesson.
I think if I've learned anything from Amy, it's, to be fearless.
Speaking of the Winehouse family, some people are already a little wary of the fact that they weren't consulted at all in the making of the movie. It's raising questions about the authenticity and sensitivity of the portrayal. In an interview about the movie, director Sam Taylor Johnson said, quote, "It was important to meet with them out of respect, but they have no involvement in terms of, they couldn't change things. They couldn't dictate how I was to shoot. Otherwise, I wouldn't have done it." It's certainly an interesting take for the leading creative on the movie, but it seems like keeping her distance from the Winehouse family allowed Taylor Johnson to focus on making the movie. She said that she knew Mitch had seen it, but she hadn't talked to him about it. She added, quote, "The important thing for me was not to have any of that noise in my sphere while making the film." And if any of you are wondering why they didn't have to get permission from the Winehouse family to use Amy's music, it's because those rights are still controlled by the record labels and publishing companies. Said Taylor Johnson, quote, "I didn't need the family's approval. All the music rights were approved by Universal and Sony." And even if Taylor Johnson was worried that the family would have issues, she'd be relieved to hear their stance. They put out a statement saying, quote, "We are thrilled that Studio Canal, Focus Features, and Monumental are making this movie celebrating our daughter Amy's extraordinary music legacy and showcasing her talent in the way that it deserves." So it seems like everyone on that side is pretty happy with the project. But on the fan side, there are still issues. One major point of debate is whether it's too soon for a movie about Amy Winehouse. She passed away in 2011, and for many, her death still feels recent. The timing has left some fans and critics wondering if the film might be rushing to tell her story without enough distance or perspective. Another hot topic is how the film portrays Amy's most personal battles, including her struggles with substance abuse and her complex relationship with the media. There's a fine line between showing the reality of her life and sensationalizing her lowest moments for entertainment. And then you add to that the potential issues around celebrity exploitation. Amy's life was intensely scrutinized by the media, often in a really negative light. By showing her most vulnerable moments, the film risks perpetuating that same kind of sensationalism that likely contributed to her struggles. But it's something the filmmakers were acutely aware of. Producer Allison Owen argues that the film actually fights back against all of these potential problems.
That's what the culture does to them, is kind of objectify and fetishize the death, and the tragedy becomes bigger than the life. And we wanted to give her back ownership of her music, ownership of her legacy.
So it remains to be seen whether the movie will focus enough on her music and talent to feel like it's not just about her scandals and personal demons. Finally, there are the debates about the accuracy of the movie. And I can tell you right now that it's definitely not supposed to be a 100% accurate retelling of Amy's life. Writer Matt Greenhall talked about the movie Amy versus the real Amy.
Well, it's not sure she's the real Amy. It's our version of Amy, and it was a deep dive into the massive archive of what is already out there.
He also admitted to not consulting with the family for their input on the real story. According to an article from NME, quote, "The filmmakers chose to tell Amy's story from her perspective, using her lyrics largely as a basis." So that basically translates to, it's kinda true, kinda made up. Regardless of what you're expecting from the movie, we can all agree that the soundtrack will be awesome. And it remains to be seen whether or not it's an accurate depiction of Amy, her family, and her life. But either way, it's definitely gonna have people talking. Have any thoughts about Back to Black? Pop them in the comments section.